Today, I'm finally getting back to the French Battlecruiser line. I got up to the Tier 9 last time. The Tier 8 Cherbourg, I wasn't a fan. I think we all were very much aware of that. Really poor dispersion makes for a very frustrating experience. Is the Tier 9 any better? Well, we're able to Citadel in Alaska. Notice how I'm on this extremely hard flank here. I'm about as wide as I possibly can be on this map. And yeah, reload booster, second salvo, get him out of here. This ship is much, much, much better than the Tier 8. But the problem is, it's got a lot more competition. I think the obvious example is just the Jean Bart. Is this just a Jean Bart with smaller guns and less armor? To me, that's kind of what it feels like. Honestly, having a similar reload, the HP pools aren't that much different. It just doesn't have the armor and it doesn't have the punching power of the Jean Bart guns. Now, perhaps that's not the most fair comparison, since this technically does fit in the cruiser line, not a battleship line. So, well, let's talk about the Alaska then. A ship with one more gun, a 5-second faster reload, and of course it brings radar to the table, and the guns have improved pen angles. So not a great comparison there either, but those two are definitely some overpowered ships, right? They're both been pseudo removed from the game, right? You're not able to get them anymore, and the guns can work on this ship, but it's just not my ship, guys. I've had some really good games, like this one was my best game, and I was left feeling quite frustrated after it. 223k, 12 citadels, it's pretty good, but it's just got this RNG factor to it. I've been saying it feels a lot like I'm playing a battleship in the downsides. The weaknesses of this ship are very much battleship weaknesses. The dispersion, when it works, it's pretty nice, but it tends not to work, and it doesn't have the battleship upside of gigantic alpha damage, right? Here we're getting, with the build I have, just over 10,000 alpha damage, whereas a lot of battleships at these tiers, right, you're getting up into that 13, 15k alpha. Back-to-back salvos against a Minotaur, a little bit of easy target, but the Harlem, that was a pretty good hit. But I'm not showing you the downsides quite yet. And in fact, I probably won't get to show all of the poor salvos, but just imagine this is your typical salvo. 3 overbends, 3,000 damage, and then you're waiting 26 seconds. And that's maybe the issue here, is the long reload. Gives you enough time to really consider how this is a cruiser, but it's a battleship, but it's not really good at either one. It can tank, like this game, for example. We're going to speed through this since I get, I think, next to no damage in this game. But I have the attention of basically the entire enemy team. We're going to rack up an absolute ton of potential damage. We're coming up on 1 million potential damage already. And I want to push, as you can see, this back and forth, back and forth. I'm trying to get into the fight. I'm trying to start playing the game. Only done 20,000 damage so far. But there's 2 Shimas here. And anytime I push forward, you notice the 3 battleships that are camping their spawn, they're just shooting me, right? So I can't really play in this game, but it can tank a little bit at long ranges. As long as you got the speed boost up, you see how quick the rudder is. It's not bad at maneuverability tanking. It's just that as soon as someone really gets a hold of you with some overmatch, it's just lights out. The ship has 30mm deck armor. Everywhere else is going to be 26, I believe. So yeah, 380s overmatching you almost everywhere. 2.2 million potential damage, though, is a pretty decent result. And as we push in here, we even managed to catch the Shimakaze. But yeah, 37k. This game had been going on for what? Over 10 minutes at this point. I'm at 38k damage. I don't know. This line I've been thinking is just not for me. We'll talk about the averages at the end of the video, but I ended up with a decent average damage. My performances seemed all right. It's just that I wasn't having a very good time. So I think that means that this line can be good. It's just not my cup of tea. Here we're coming up to, 1400 base XP. Not a great result, but again, this potential damage. It shows that at long ranges, with the decent maneuverability, it can tank by dodging a lot of shells. Keep in mind, we did have a Neptune shooting at us for most of that game. Moving on, though, a massive error I'm about to make here. We get a nice hit in onto the Buffalo, but I'm about to play far too aggressive, and this is where the armor is really going to show itself to be extremely weak. I'm pushing very aggressive for A. The reason is we only had a Massachusetts spawn on this flank, so I'm assuming mirrored spawns. That's it. I was assuming that the enemy team had one battleship on this flank as well, and that I could push for this A island relatively comfortably. And yeah, we run into 2 Lenins. And spoiler alert, there's also a destroyer here that's going to be torping at us. So yeah, we're going to die very, very quickly. I'll talk about the HE a little bit more towards the end, but it's not bad. The DPM really isn't there, but much like the Jean Bart and the Bourgogne, it's carried a lot by the reload booster. Reload boosters are amazing if you're wanting to HE spam ships, right? Especially battleships, if you're trying to get fire damage stacking. You see someone damage control a fire, you have your HE loaded, you pop your reload booster. You're not guaranteed a follow-up fire, but it's pretty close to guaranteeing a follow-up fire, and that's a great way to get a lot of damage stacking very quickly. So even though the actual DPM isn't great, the reload booster really does carry it through a lot of these HE scenarios, but it's certainly not going to help us here, as even though we are surviving for a reasonably long time, it's more down to our large HP pool and not really down to this ship bouncing or dodging a lot of salvos. And I think this is a way that could be good for playing this ship. If you're on a map where you can't really flank, or you're spawning somewhere where flanking isn't really an option for you, playing closer to your destroyers, drawing the enemy's fire, the ship can survive for a reasonably long time. Not a ton, but to get all of your firepower off, it's all in the front, right? So you can stay perfectly angled. And even for a battleship that's able to overmatch this ship, 60k HP plus 4 heals. I mean, you're probably not going to get through all your heals if you're taking a lot of damage, but a bow on ship, even one that gets overmatched a lot, it's going to take a long time to kill. And if you're up front, helping your teammates, helping your destroyer in those initial engagements, I mean, assuming you have an island to back away from, right? I guess I would consider the island on G6, G8, sorry, G7, G8, somewhere in there, just south of the decap. If I pushed up to that island, the right side of that island, and tried to take that DD engagement, and then used my speed boost to reverse back into cover once the engagement was over, that would be a decent way to start the game if I wasn't able to go on a flank. Of course, though, it's 2 brothers, and I'm in a ship with all my firepower up front, so you know where I had to go, right? There was no other spot other than the middle of the map, and this was by far the most frustrating game. Not yet, don't worry, not yet, but we're about to see a Georgia come flying in flat broadside, and he's going to be broadside almost the entire game to me, and I'm going to do next to no damage to him. I probably should be using some more HE against this lion, something I decided very late into my time here with this French battlecruiser line, is that I just have been shooting the AP too much. The HE is surprisingly good, and especially against angled battleships, I mean, look at that dispersion. It's, I mean, we got 7k, that's actually a decent salvo. That's a decent salvo, but the dispersion was just kind of trolling me, so not having to aim for citadels and just going for center mass might have eased up on the frustration. Flat broadside Georgia, he does 13k to me, I do 12 to him. And we have similar reloads, keep that in mind, guys. It's not like this is a cruiser reload where, oh wow, I'm doing battleship salvos, but I have half his reload. No, I have a full battleship reload here. Yes, there is a reload booster, but that's not an excuse, in my opinion. That's just not an excuse. I'm backing in and out here. Of course, I spent quite a bit of time waiting for the Georgia to leave, since I don't want to be taking a close range fight with the Georgia, since I know those overmatching guns, they can definitely hurt. The Hydro, of course, is a 5-kilometer Hydro, so I'm not quite able to get in range to Hydro this DD. And the George is back, and he's flat broadside again. And, well, let's see. What do I get this time? Oh, I got a Citadel. That's pretty good. I will definitely take that. But the overmatch is about to absolutely end me here in a little bit. But he grounds flat, guys. Oh my goodness. I'm watching this back. I'm getting frustrated all over again. This happened this morning. I've had like 6 hours to calm down. He's flat broadside grounded. Guys. Okay. Okay, I'm calm. I'm calm. It's fine. He does 4K and takes out my turret with his back gun only. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We'll just back away and it'll be all right. We've done 80k damage already. The Cyclone's coming in. I've got a Petro here to help me. And he's reversing towards us flat broadside. 8,000 damage. And what do you know? He's got a salvo ready for us. I think that in this next salvo, he only gets 2 of his turrets off at me. So keep in mind, this is only 2/3 of his firepower. He has a whole turret left. Yeah, 20k and another turret. Oh man, and then there's the last turret. He nearly kills me. And we do 3,000 damage back. Yeah, so the overmatching battleships at close range, you're not going to stand up to that very well at all. The guns are inconsistent at best. They're hard to rely on. And I think that overall, it's just a frustrating experience because you have a lot of the downsides of battleships without the massive upside of these absolutely devastating salvos. Keep in mind, I'm cherry picking a lot of these clips. They're cherry picked, guys, right? I'm not showing you full games where I'm just, well, I did show you the full game where I did like 35k damage, right? And a couple other ones where I didn't do too well, but these devastating Citadel salvos, they don't happen all the time. They rarely happen in my experience. So overall, the tier 9, I think, is a decent ship. It's not my favorite ship. It's not going to be one I want to play ever again. It's one that is heavily reliant on RNG and has a lot of the negatives of cruisers with no armor, a lot of overmatch, and a lot of the negatives of battleships where it relies on RNG to do damage and have any sort of battle impact. You can see the pen and the guns can be good, but the problem, of course, is the dispersion. At closer ranges, we're going to hit a lot like that. And of course, a Soyuz, that's a ship with an above water citadel. That's something that's going to get punished a lot more often, I guess. Something like that, Georgia. Yeah. You know what? No, I'm not even going to bring up that Georgia anymore. I'm just going to get frustrated all over again. Let's talk about the HE real quick. This was near the end of my grind through the tier 9, and yeah, the HE's pretty good, guys. I gotta say, I should have been using it a lot more. So if you're going to be playing through this line, 5k damage, that's a similar salvo to an angled AP salvo, and we get ourselves a fire out of it. And I believe our last salvo is even going to be, I think it was like around 8k. Yeah, I think using the HE, trying to burn down battleships, can be a very viable strategy. You can see how we're just able to sneak those shells over, and using islands could be a very good way to play this ship. So as you can see at this point, I do have the tier 10, but no XP on it. I haven't played it at all yet. The commander I'm using still looks like this. I think running Grease the Gears is a bit of a must, especially now that we're getting reload mod, which makes our turrets turn a little bit slower. Yeah, there were times where I definitely wanted the turrets to turn just a little bit quicker. I think that running top grade gunner is something that I'm going to try to do once I have 21 points, but as for right now, it's tough to make it work while also using all of these other skills that I want. I want survivability expert, I want superintendent. These are very important things. Concealment expert, and of course, adrenaline rush. What I'm planning to do, I'm planning to drop heavy AP shells. It's 5% DPM for just the AP, or a situational 8% DPM at closer ranges for both AP and HE. I think it could be a little bit better having top grade gunner. Of course, secondaries it does buff as well, but I mean, secondaries on cruisers, it's a bit of a meme, right? They're not all that useful. They're not even that useful on battleships. Only Schlieffen, really. As far as the upgrades go, it's exactly what I was running on the tier 9, except for the engine boost mod. I don't think while you're grinding through these lines, you should be investing in some of these special upgrades, but once you get to the tier 10 and know you're going to use it, or if you've got a lot of coal laying around, you could buy some of these. This one, with the coupon I used, I think it was 12,000 coal. Getting the engine boost mod does buff our speed boost to have, well, 234-second uptime feels pretty good. The French speed boosts are pretty nice to boost like that. But if not, you could definitely run damage control systems since the fires hurt. They last a long time and no fire prevention here. So trying to reduce that as much as possible. Now, as for the stats on the Brest, I managed to finish this grind in 9 games. Keep in mind, I free XP all the stock upgrades, so I'm playing with a fully upgraded ship, and then I play through it with some XP boosters as well. So 124k average damage is really good for a tier 9 cruiser, right? Don't get me wrong here. This ship can perform, and I've had some great results in it, but it doesn't change that it was frustrating for me to play. My win rate is about along my average, right? I think I'm around a 69-70% average win rate, so it's about in line, and the damage was higher than usual, but that's the only way this one's getting battle impact. It's not like in Alaska where we're getting battle impact through our radar. We have to be doing damage to impact these games, and realistically, it's got to be early game damage into DDs, into crucial priority targets, not just farming battleships. So maybe if I start to use the HE more, I'm going to get a little more damage, but I might start to lose more because I'm trying to farm battleships too much instead of going after radar cruisers, destroyers, that kind of thing. So overall, the French grind has been pretty rough this time around. The tier 8 was extremely tough to play, and I did recognize that a lot of HP, you get a heal at tier 8. It makes sense that the guns are going to be frustrating, but at tier 9, everything starts to get heals, and, well, if we start to compare against some of its counterparts, it doesn't come out very favorably, and it was a pretty frustrating experience overall. We'll see what the tier 10 is going to be like, but I found the tier 8 to be pretty bad to play overall, and the tier 9 so far was just okay. If the tier 10 is not amazing, I'd probably just skip this line altogether, but that's going to be in a different video once I've actually got some experience with the tier 10. Let me know what you think so far of the French grind in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.